The Last Jedi. Burn it all. St. John the Philosopher here. With a Rotten Tomatoes audience score of 47%, The Last Jedi is an extremely divisive movie, especially for lifelong fans like myself. There are plenty of videos out there critical of the writing, direction, acting, plot holes, and all sorts of other things. But what I'm going to focus on is how this Star Wars movie in particular is a reflection of the culture we're living in, and that's why so many of us don't like it. There are spoilers aplenty ahead, so if you haven't seen this movie and are planning on it, just go ahead and do that. We'll talk after. If you haven't seen any Star Wars movie, get out. I'm serious. I can't even. Whether you're an uber nerd like me or a casual viewer, you can't help but admit that Star Wars is a major touchstone of American culture that spans generations. Even people who've never seen the movies all the way through recognize Darth Vader's breathing, Wookiee speech, and the hum of a lightsaber. But more important than all of those things is what the themes and ideas of Star Wars have meant as both a reflection and influence on the culture at large. I may end up doing a whole video on this later, but it must be said that behind the popcorn munching fun of it all, the original Star Wars trilogy treads some very serious ground. Its exploration of the concepts of the light and dark side, how our thoughts and feelings lead to actions that reflect one or the other, the transcendent power that binds the universe together, how we're immortal, luminous beings within the crude matter of flesh and bone. These are all very biblical ideas, at least to this Christian's ears. And those things have a ring of truth that resonates with us. The Last Jedi, while giving a nod to these ideas, undermines them at every turn. Sure, it looks like Star Wars, it sounds like Star Wars. In fact, it may be the most cinematic Star Wars I've ever experienced. But the more I think about the content of this latest movie in the Star Wars saga, the more I can't stand it. In my view, what we see on screen is very much a reflection of how far we've diverged from the values that were most prevalent in the late 70s and early 80s when the original trilogy came out, and even further removed from the 50s and 60s when the creators who worked on those films grew up. The theme of the first theatrically released movie is faith. Young Luke Skywalker must learn to trust in something greater than himself, the Force, in order to destroy the Death Star. With an unusual script structure that doesn't actually provide a solid conclusion, The Empire Strikes Back has a more elusive theme, but it still has one. Things aren't always what they seem. The little green dude is a powerful Jedi Master, and the Scourge of the Galaxy is your father, for starters. Finally, The Return of the Jedi is about hope fulfilled, with the resolution of both the external conflict of the Galactic Civil War and the internal struggle between light and dark within Luke and Darth Vader. These are all very common and agreeable ideas. Even the prequel trilogy, however clumsily handled, had a very recognizable and acceptable theme running across the three movies, which was a cautionary tale of Anakin Skywalker's downfall.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
The grand theme of writer-director Rian Johnson's turn at the Star Wars saga is summed up by the villain, Kylo Ren.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to.
Johnson's commitment to this idea is apparent not only in his treatment of the characters, but also in how he handled Star Wars lore. Planned trilogies are generally supposed to appear as large, cohesive narratives across three movies. So when storylines are introduced in an earlier film, the next one should pick it up. Where major questions are asked, answers need to follow, and they need to be satisfying. You remember The Force Awakens, right? Because I don't think Rian Johnson did. Actually, I take that back. I think he did. I think he also saw all the theorizing and speculation by fans about where the story was going to go, and I think he decided to take the opportunity to burn it all. So coming on the heels of The Force Awakens, Star Wars fans were all ginned up with questions, and Rian Johnson smacked them down like he was playing whack-a-mole. I wonder what Luke's going to say when he gets that lightsaber. What? Who are Rey's parents?
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. The dead.
What's the deal with Snoke? Who is... Oh. What's Luke been up to this whole time on that island? I bet it's awesome.
What?
Johnson's greatest sins, and the ones that most exemplify today's cultural deficiencies, involve the characters. Oh, the characters.
Look closer.
Shut up, Rose. We'll start with a minor one like General Hux.
Skinny guy, kind of pasty.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Look, I can't hold forever. If you reach him, tell him Leia has an urgent message for him.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir.
About his mother.
Open fire!
Hux represents this generation's imagined villains. The legions of so-called alt-right Nazis scattered about the internet, making spicy posts on 4chan or whatever. And like his ineffectual and irrelevant real-life counterparts, Hux is nothing more than a sputtering buffoon with delusions of grandeur. His dialogue sounds like a salty Twitter storm delivered in this high-pitched, screamy rant voice that reminds me of that Hitler reaction meme.
Die gesamte Generalität ist nichts weiter als ein Haufen niederträchtiger, treuloser Feiglinge!
Mein Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbringen...
Nicht als Feiglinge! Verreiter, Versager!
Mein Führer, was Sie da sagen, ist ungeheuerlich.
Die Generalität ist das Geschmeiß des deutschen Volkes!
Compare this to Grand Moff Tarkin. This dude commanded respect. He was no mustache-twirling caricature. His calm demeanor indicated his supreme confidence. And that confidence was well-founded, because the Empire was an unstoppable juggernaut that won through overwhelming force and tactical prowess. When they were on the heels of our heroes, we knew things could go sideways fast. And the only way they were going to make it was through clever tricks and a bit of luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
The First Order, on the other hand, are just incompetent. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Just shoot them. Almost the entire resistance force is right there, and you have a pair of giant doom cannons. This generation's misunderstanding and mischaracterization of villainy is partially why they see it in every innocuous comment and dissenting opinion, while simultaneously being blind to the true acts of evil happening all over the world and at your local Planned Parenthood. Because their moral compass has no true north, their sense of right and wrong is just out of whack. And speaking of whack, I give you Vice Admiral Holdo. This character is basically your feminist dance theory professor, all attitude and platitudes, but no discernible competence for the position she holds. In every other Star Wars scene that looks like this, we get a plan. How to destroy the Death Star. How to break the blockade around Hoth. How to destroy Death Star 2. How to destroy Death Star 3, aka Starkiller Base. But here we get a speech intended to inspire, but only managing to confuse everyone. And this jagoff here has the nerve to ask, a reasonable question. Like, how are you going to keep us alive?
Tell us that we have a plan.
In both instances where Poe asks his new leader to give him reason to be confident in her, she basically tells him that he should just trust her, just because. Implicit faith in a suitably diverse and ideologically pure superior is just expected. This is part of the articles of faith for this generation. Merit and ability are just tools of the patriarchy, so demanding proof of it is just an exercise in toxic masculinity or something. What's even more interesting is how Rian Johnson, completely lacking in self-awareness of what he's done, shows us that had Vice Admiral Women's Studies here said what the plan was, Poe would have just responded with,
That could work.
and we wouldn't have had to endure this poor excuse of a mutiny, the entire useless Canto Bight plotline, or Rose frickin' Tico.
I work behind pipes all day.
Go back behind the pipes, Rose. And then there's Rey. Her introduction in The Force Awakens gave us reason to like this scrappy young lady who'd managed to survive on her own and picked up some cool skills along the way. I mean, her uncanny prowess with the Force and her victory against Kylo Ren was annoying, but at the time, most of us still had faith that there was some mystery there yet to be revealed. We were expecting a spectacular expansion of the rules of the Force. Instead, we got a story that broke the rules of the Force.
Burn it all!
After 6 movies, we understood that people are born with Force sensitivity. We even accepted midi-chlorians, which just made the Force mutant power like the X-Men, but at least it didn't invalidate everything that came before it. We also understood that it was one thing to be strong in the Force, and quite another to be skilled with the Force. The latter took training and practice and hard work using knowledge passed down for 1,000 generations from Master to Padawan. For everyone, that is, except Rey. You see, Rey represents how this generation sees themselves. They are uniquely capable, inherently proficient, and more than deserving of your respect and admiration. Because, earning stuff through hard work is stupid. Through 6 movies and 2 animated TV series, we've watched young Force users learn and grow and fail and persevere to become true heroes.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Rey just shows up. At most, she just concentrates really hard and then she's amazing. Ryan even managed to get in a dig at the idea of preserving ancient wisdom and passing it on. In real life, human civilization has accumulated a lot of hard-fought understanding about the way things work. We've tested it, refined it, and collected it for posterity. But this generation has deluded itself into thinking that they not only don't need to consult stuffy old books from stuffy old dead guys, but that the ideas and institutions built upon that knowledge should be torn down.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
We see this reflected in The Last Jedi, co-signed by none other than Yoda himself like a kick in the teeth. Yoda, the 900-year-old master, always ready with his ancient knowledge, actually destroys ancient knowledge before validating that Rey is somehow equipped with everything she needs already.
That library contained nothing that the girl Rey does not already possess. What?
The same Yoda that begged Luke not to abandon his training early before it was finished, lest he find himself defeated, which he did. But that brings me to the final and most egregious act of anti-Star Wars writing ever to appear in a product called Star Wars: the destruction of Luke Skywalker. At the end of the original trilogy, Luke Skywalker was the most hopeful character in the entire galaxy. Seriously. Having only recently come to the knowledge that Darth Vader was his father, Luke held out hope to the bitter end that Anakin Skywalker could be redeemed. Darth Vader had shown the galaxy that he was a relentlessly evil, mass-murdering monster with no regard for anything save his quest for power and dominance. But Luke saw just the slightest glimmer of good in him and believed that he could pull him back. You can't tell me that the Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi was the same Luke that's in The Last Jedi, who, having glimpsed some darkness in his nephew, had the urge to murder him in his sleep. Justifiably ashamed, this version of Luke fled to an island to die, cut himself off from his friends, who are fighting and dying against the First Order, by the way, and eventually decides to take ancient books of Jedi wisdom and burn it all! As bad as that was, it wasn't enough for Rian Johnson. No, he had to torture the character even more. Make him a weird sort of hermit. Take away our opportunity to see him as a real Jedi Master. And instead give us this garbage. Show him low and defeated at the feet of someone that should have been his Padawan. And this gross, uncomfortably stupid and useless scene whose only purpose could be to reduce Luke to some mouth-breathing basement dweller of an old man.
That was a cheap move.
This is the thing that really pissed me off, because everybody loved Luke, the original Luke. Everybody saw a piece of themselves in him, and Rian Johnson gave us all a flaming pile of crap, stuck it between 2 slices of bread, and called it a sandwich.
That is why you fail.
Somehow, this guy managed to get handed the keys to the kingdom, too. A whole new trilogy of movies, all to himself. Whoop-de-frickin-do.
Wipe that nervous expression off your face, 3PO.
Well, I will certainly try, General. Nervous.
There are 1,000 more things I could say, but I've already gone way too long with this video. So tell me what you think of this video. Let me know what you think about the new Star Wars movies and how it relates to our current culture. Did you like The Last Jedi and think I'm way off base? Have a go at the comments. In the meantime, be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more videos on religion, culture, and politics. And Star Wars. That's all for today. This is St. John the Philosopher. Goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you in another video.